Hello, just want to do a quick video on my black soldier fly larva bins I set up. In this one, you're going to see a lot of my cat litter and stuff. I use this is actually a bag of feline pine cat litter I used that was pellet form. Well, I dumped it in here with some pet waste and stuff. And as you can tell, there's nothing there at first. But if you look closer, there's potatoes in here, some onions and tomatoes. Yes, I will wash my hands afterwards. This was what's left of a tomato. And as you can see, it's nothing left of it. I put it in there yesterday, it's gone. I put like egg yolk, took an egg and cracked it, put it in here. Within a few minutes, these guys ate it up. And right here you can see an onion. I'm gonna lift it up to show you how and why they're called the composting piranhas. These are, can't tell if you see it or not real good, but if you see them moving, there they are. There's one. These are composting piranhas, also known as black soldier fly larvae. You can feed them to your chickens. They're great composters, especially with manure, but they produce something called insect frass, which helps build up your plants in a way. To help build up the strength to fight off pests and diseases and stuff, I've read. But look at this onion I put in here a few days ago. That's just the skin of it. And I think we got some here. There's one. Look at them now. They're eating away at it. But here's some. They're composting at dog waste, but here they are. Here they are. I threw a piece of flour in there. There they are. Here's a potato I threw in here for them to eat, munch on. Look at how ferocious they are. And they live up to their nickname, the composting piranhas, really well. And I'm going to try to use this to dig around for them. If you put something at the surface here, you can actually see a lot of them. There they are. And you can feed these to your chickens, reptiles, but I would recommend washing them off with some hot water first in this type of setup. And this I'm going to use to make the flowers with and stuff. And here's the pellets. But you can use for bedding. You can use like brewer's yeast, brewer's grains, spent coffee grounds, manure of course. I've heard of people using oatmeal. But you can attract them naturally to your yard. And they may be pests to some people, but really they help out in some way. They have a good impact on the ecology, like especially farmers. If they got piles of manure they need to get rid of it quickly, these things can break it down and then they can be used to feed their animals. But here's another example. I had a lot of that laying around. And also, that feline cat litter that was made from pine, I gave this to them. And they seem to be doing pretty good in it. But now what I was going to say before is, they can also be used in a composting toilet. And you can use their poop as a soil amendment, or add it to your garden, or even feed a little bit to your worm bins. But just be careful when adding it. But I'll sift this out here in a few days and see how much poop they produce. But let's go with this one, where this is for non-edible plants. Let's go over to the next one, which is I'm using for worm bin, but this is actually pig manure with some straw and kernel corns they didn't eat, and probably some sweet grains mixed in it with some cardboard. So let's show you this, shall we? Also, houseflies, some people are actually using them for it, but here, for composting, but let me get one of these guys up. That is a black soldier fly larva. And here's what they look like. Here you go. I'm using my other hand that was not in that one. But don't worry, I am going to use hand sanitizer and wash my hands off real good. But here's how they work. When they're in fly larva form, they eat. But when they're in a fly, they don't eat nothing. I don't even think they drink water, but this is one good way of attracting them. And especially if you're a pig farmer, you can raise them to take care of your pig waste, have great compost to use on your crops, and take the larvae and feed to your pigs. there you go, back in their little tunnel. I'll probably have to add some more stuff to this. But remember, there's bins out there you can buy specially made for these guys, because the one important thing is they need a ramp. I've seen all different styles of ramps, but with this one I'm going to put a piece of something like PVC, or right now I got a piece of aluminum laying around. I'm going to put it up here so they can climb out into this bin. But eventually I'm going to use another tub like this. These are Purina cattle feed tubs I'm using. But for this, I'm going to use this PVC here. That's the end they're going to come out of, I think, or the other one I might use, not for sure yet. And they're going to go into this plastic bin here, just so they could start the cycle over again. And they're very voracious in the larva form. They will eat this stuff up. See, they're still taking some time in here, but if you dig around deep enough, you're actually going to see them. But like I said, there's all different ways of building stuff. They're easy to raise, but they can be tricky. Like temperature, like the adult flies I've seen people have to use cardboard for them. But me, I didn't have to, because I had some bags of cat waste and dog waste and stuff from my composting toilets laying around, and I found them in there, and I decided to start using these as a bin for them. And they're one of the many insects that you can actually raise for composting. You can even go into Walmart and see these things being sold in bags, but they're probably raised differently than I do. And also they're trying to use these to replace fish meal, which is a nutrient you can use in your garden, maybe even add to your worm bin fish meal. But also you can feed these to an aquaponic farm, or if you're into aquaculture, you can feed it to them, or even to your koi fish farm. And they're pretty flies. People consider pests, but in some ways they're good. Like, some places are still using them. Even in forensic labs, I believe they're using them. I don't know what kind, but I've heard of research where they were actually used to clean wounds and stuff. But I don't know what kind it was. But I feed mine here, the food scraps, I feed them differently than my worm bin. But in that one, I'm going to add, the other one over here, I'm going to add some bokashi, which is something I will talk about later. But I'll tell you this, bokashi is basically an organic fermenting technique you do with food scrap. And I probably got some in my bokashi bucket, but I'll talk about that in a further episode. But here's also some eggshell I threw in there. It was an eggshell. It was in my trash, and I took it in here, cracked it, let the egg yolk fall in here. Not even 5 minutes go by, they were zooming to the top to eat it. And they won't eat the eggshell because it's not crushed up, but hopefully it'll rot and decay on its own, because I've checked the temperature in this bin, and it was really hot. It was probably like over 90, 100 degrees, I think. But yeah, if you got like stuff that you can't add to your worm bin, like say peppers and stuff like that, citric fruits. Now, some people add onions and citric fruit to theirs. I don't. I just add it to here. Citrus fruit peels, I compost them first. But with these guys, I usually add that kind of stuff there to it, because they can eat it with no problem. They'll take care of it for me, and I don't have to give it to my worms. And also there is some of that corn litter. It's made of corn fiber and other plant material that I use in my cat litter box. I threw it in here that they use as bedding. I used it and it seems to work. Personally, for me, it works. And these, like I said, these are cattle feed tubs by Purina. I got given to me for free. And always remember, if you're going to set one up, make sure you have a ramp of some kind. Now, there's other ideas to make for ramps for them. That's the most important thing, is when you're building a bin for them, make sure you have a ramp. Choose a bedding, like, you know, like I said, use coffee grounds, brewer's grain would be a good source, or brewer's yeast maybe, or even manure, but make sure make sure you feed them. You know, you can feed them food scraps and stuff. And don't forget to sift out their bedding, because they don't, it's just like worm bin, you know, you gotta sift it out. Except, most important thing is make sure that there's a ramp they can climb up. that they can get into the next spin and start the cycle all over again. And I don't see any black soldier fly adults here, but they, like I said, they're very important, very beneficial to the environment and the ecosystem, and they can serve many purposes. They can be a animal feed. You can even feed them to your fish. They can replace fish meal. They help, they can help build back up the fish population. And I've even seen videos about that, where they were actually taking these things and feeding them to fish in the oceans. And I watched a video one time about how it was a farmer who had pigs, was trying to figure out how he's going to deal with all the pig waste. Instead of traditional composting, which takes too long, he actually used housefly larvae to compost them. And they composted that stuff within a short amount of time. And also, there are other flies in here breaking it down. For me, which there's one right there. Oh, he flew away. But yeah, they're making great progress on this stuff. And I hope you liked this video.